welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Senior Software Engineer at Indicio, Colton Wolkins, and he's here to discuss online age verification, which is a big topic that's been in the news recently. So in case you're unaware, many countries are requiring more strict online age verification for organizations, and it's causing a lot of companies to implement new systems to verify age of their users, and sometimes in not so great of a way. So I'm curious, your thoughts, Colton. How are we seeing this currently done, and why has it drawn some attention, especially for the implications for digital identity and online safety?
So one of the reasons why it's brought so much attention, a lot of these laws are framed around protecting children from seeing adult and explicit content. But just like the same day that the law went into effect in the UK, people were noticing that not only was this explicit content being blocked, but also like news information about recent events, protests, and other things were being censored when really that isn't harmful content for children. And all of this under the guise of, you need to verify your identity to see this unsafe content, whether it is safe or not. And many of times to verify your age, you're required to send in not only like a facial scan with your phone or device, but also your driver's license, passport, or some other government ID, which can be used. Identity theft is a thing, fraud is a thing, and not every company is implementing these age verification techniques in a way that protects the user's privacy, preventing people from having their identity stolen and their lives ruined.
All right. Yeah, so you touched on a few things there that I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into. The first one being obviously the identity theft problem, right? So if you're sending in a facial scan or a picture of your driver's license, the identity theft, right, the more you share that online and depending on who's storing it can be a huge issue. So I'm curious, is there any guidelines that you've heard of around, how this information is stored or what they're doing with all that information?
Uh, so the guidelines for how these things are stored, they should not be stored. That's the major problem here, is that they are being stored, and uh, in the case of a recent data breach that happened, or a couple of data breaches, the companies in question said that they deleted your data, this biometric data, after they had finished verifying your information. And this was, the driver's license, the selfie. It also contained, because these were pictures taken with a phone, for whatever reason, they didn't strip this information, but it also contains the geolocation data. So exactly where you took that photo, one of which, from one of the leaked photos, revealed it was taken from the tarmac of a secret military base when people dug into it.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, these companies said, "Oh, we delete that data after we verified the your identity," but obviously that wasn't the case when 60 gigabytes of, driver's license and selfie photos was just widely open on the web for someone who had the right know-how to get at that data.
Yeah, interesting. So obviously that's a bit more on the organization there in being in misusing that data and not deleting it like they said they were supposed to. But in terms of sharing the information right online, so a child takes a photo, is there a way for them to be able to strip that metadata themselves before sending it into whatever, system is working? How would that work in your mind?
Yeah, so there are actually ways to go ahead and do that. When I take photos on my phone, there's actually a setting that I can toggle that well, it doesn't even store that data with the photo when I take it. Um, and that's something I can toggle on my phone, but most people just have that option on or don't think about it or even know where to get at that to turn it off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would never have known that either. So that's good to just get some awareness around good, digital identity hygiene and being able to strip some of that data for yourself, so you're not sharing as much as possible. Speaking of kind of, oversharing, obviously setting in a photo of your, driver's license or passport or whatever it is that you're proving your identity with could be a pretty big issue. I'm curious what your thoughts are on, sending in a photo of your ID to prove who you are to whatever app it is. I feel like, if this goes into effect and all online age verification needs like a photo ID, you're going to be sharing your driver's license a lot with a lot of people.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'd be sharing your driver's license with all sorts of these companies, and they're all going to be, they're going to have different storage retention policies. And we mentioned, or you mentioned that with these particular companies, with these breaches, that that's on the organization. But whether it is the organization or an individual could, at the company, might be mishandling the information. And none of these corporations that are implementing these policies, they don't have to abide by HIPAA for PII, right? There are all these rules and regulations that they don't have to abide by because they're not in the medical space, they're not in the financial space, but they're dealing with things that are so much more damaging. Because if I have your identity, I can try to open up bank accounts in your name and ruin your credit score and get free money. Free money for
Yeah.
me, but it obviously hurts you more than me. And so just oversharing all of this information, whether or not it's in the like for the right reasons, when you overshare to all these companies, it means that it's easier for malicious actors to get at that data. Because it's one thing if I have the data on a centralized server. It's another thing if I have it on 18 centralized servers, because if one of those, just one, is set up incorrectly, insecurely, boom, there's enough info to commit identity fraud.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the more people, like you mentioned, 18 servers, everyone sets it up differently. I think, in one of the recent breaches I heard, I think it was the T app had their photos were essentially through a URL, something
That
people could
is
view and
what I
see
was
like all of
referring.
them, which is
Sorry,
crazy.
that's what I was referring to earlier when I mentioned the secret military base that was through the T app.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously that's not great. So we've touched on a lot of the problems, right? And obviously some big concerns because the government's basically just said, all right, here's what we want, make it happen, right? It is essentially how that legislation goes down, and then organizations have to kind of change their own systems and policies to comply with whatever the government regulation is. Uh, in your mind, right? It's a perfect world. How would you set up a better system than just sending in pictures of your identity, of your driver's license, and things like that?
In an ideal world, and I am quite biased because I work at Indicio on really incredible technology. I love what we do here. And the fact that the technology is open source, or the core foundational technology is open source. So even if you didn't go with Indicio, you'd still be able to benefit from the technology, though. We make everything easy with trainings, etc. Um, in an ideal world, the government who already has your information because they're the ones issuing your driver's licenses and your passports, if they already have the information, they could easily offer you a digital uh, piece of information with specifically selective disclosure components to it. Whether that's using a non-creds, SD JOTs, or like we have other videos talking about these technologies. And the the reason why I say specifically selective disclosure is because it allows you to present information, but not all of the information. So I can present to you my date of birth, and you know that that date of birth is valid according to the Utah Department of Motor Vehicles. Like they've gone ahead, done all of the vetting to ensure that, you know, that is my date of birth. And that's the only piece of information that you'd get, whether it's, and sometimes you could get even less information than the date of birth. You could get I am above this age. Not like I am, I was born on such and such date, but I am above the age of 18. And some technologies allow for that. So they're no longer seeing, your address, your full name, uh, whether or not you're an organ donor. Like none of that matters, especially in terms of age verification. And we've had age verification laws for an incredibly long time. Things such as like the COPA Act, Child Online Privacy Protection Act. And I can tell you that like you've been to websites where there's a checkbox that says I am above the age of 13. That is essentially COPA. And I can tell you as a child how many times I clicked that when I was under the age of 18 or 13 because it was just so easy. You want access to a service? I just hit the checkbox and I say I agree. It's like the terms of service. Nobody reads them for the most part. I agree, get into the service. And the same thing is even happening with the current stuff with age verification. Uh, Discord is in some countries now requiring you to verify by having a essentially like the face biometric scan, and people are bypassing that with video games. You're always going to have some form of bypass when you are relying on these third-party companies. I mean, they're great and all, but somebody is going to try to figure out a way to bypass it. That's just inevitable. And some people, trust the government hard, or as much as some people hate to trust the government, honestly, generally they have the information that's needed to actually verify who you are and when you were born and all of these things. And until the government steps up and provides these digital credentials that are privacy preserving, that allow, the bare minimum of identity to be sent to these services. Until we have that, you're going to have things like identity theft, which is from my understanding, a multi-billion-dollar issue. So if we can start solving this identity theft problem by issuing these digital credentials, giving the minimum amount of information, all of a sudden anyone trying to utilize these informations, commit identity fraud, the information they get from any sort of data breaches is absolutely useless to them. And so they won't even be able to uh, cause harm to all these individuals.
All right. So you touched on quite a bit there. And I think I do agree that we do need, right, if the government's going to set the regulations, they need to provide a better way to meet those regulations in that, issuing that identity to everybody. We've started a little bit with mobile driver's licenses, which some of them you might be able to share online or prove some of that information yourself. I'm curious if we could go back to, like you said, people beating the face scans with images taken from video games or other you could download any image off Google Images and present that as your face right today. How would you go about stopping that with, this new system? Because obviously, right, I can still present any face, or is that just beaten by the government being able to essentially issue biographic or biometric information?
So for the most part, and what they've done today, I mean, giving these people credit where credit is due for how they've implemented these facial recognition systems. For example, the Discord example I gave earlier, they require you to, look left, look right, up, down, open your mouth, close your mouth. And they've put in these things to try to do that liveliness check, make sure you are who you say you are. And the way kids have gotten around that is they'll put it at video games like Death Stranding, allow you to take photos of your character and allow you to pose your character. They're also using Gary's mod, which is famous for this, and they're mimicking all of these checks by rotating the character's head left or right, telling the character to open their mouth and then close their mouth. when they get the prompts on the phone. So they're still doing that. And the way, governments essentially, from my perspective, could beat this is when I got my driver's license, I had to physically go in to the DMV. I don't know if this is the same case today with everyone, after COVID, people going and doing the online only route. But when you had that, you have to go into the DMV physically. It's hard to fake a face when you have to be there in person.
That's fair. I believe I've never heard of anybody getting a fully virtual driver's license or anything like that because you still have to still go in and take the tests and all that. Um, so I'm curious, right? Because I've heard some people, like I believe YouTube was implementing an AI that will basically watch your habits and try to make a judgment call on whether you're 18 or above whatever age for whatever content. What are your thoughts on using AI for age verification in that way?
Um, it gets difficult. So you run into a few issues, and some of those are when the kids themselves tend to browse more adult-centered topics. For example, when I was a child, the kinds of things I was browsing was not like, uh, is Blue's Clues, what's the next episode of Blue's Clues going to look like? I happen to be in, junior high, elementary school. I was looking up programming videos, things an adult would normally look at, because that was my passion. That's what my hobby was. And then you also get the flip side where you have adults who are interested in watching My Little Pony, which is, targeted towards kids. And so now you've got people with these interests, watching something that was per se meant for kids because they find entertainment value because it's just truly entertaining content. And so you're going to end up with a lot of false positives because of these habits that people have just naturally formed.
So it looks like we're coming to the end of our time today, Colton. Really appreciate all your insights into this matter. Do you have any parting thoughts or any key takeaways that you'd really want people to know about online age verification, or maybe just where you'd want us to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
So where I'd want us to be in the next 3 to 5 years, we've got the technology today. It's not brand new technology. It's technology that's been around since I joined Indicio, I think around 5 years ago now. It's we have the ability to verify or request just specific parts of somebody's identity, uh, you know, whether that's been issued by a government entity or not. We have the ability to just request the limited amount of information and discard it right away as soon as we've gotten that verification. The, the verification comes with the information, no external verification needed. You don't need to run background checks on people because it's already essentially been done by the signatures that are provided with the information. And so, where I want to see us in the next 5 years is just getting rid of all of these uh, superfluous systems that just trust the user. And cybersecurity, never trust the user. And so I want to see us get rid of these systems that trust the user and using something that's actually verifiable and actionable right away as soon as you get it.
All right, sounds good. Well, yeah, thank you for your time today, Colton. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about decentralized identity or verifiable credential technology, please be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content. And if you have any specific topics that you'd like for us to discuss, please go ahead and leave a comment below. We'll be sure to read and address them. Thank you all for watching.